is in film, and as my internship was in film, and as my thesis statement and my whole capstone project is about film, I decided that it would be better to make this as a film rather than a presentation, which is probably cheating, likely cheating. However, I think it'll work. The thesis statement for my capstone project happens to be, is the movie theater industry dying and the streaming service taking over? That's what I'm going to be answering today in this presentation. However, I am legally required to tell you about my internship first. During the internship course, I interned at Opfer Communication, which is... It tells stories of people, products, and services to educate and inform, drive sales, and build brands. Basically, they make commercials. At this internship, I basically worked as another set of hands. I moved around some equipment, I spray painted some props, and also transcribed some audio on some of the projects I worked on, and watched a video series from the 80s on how to properly light a shot. Here's some photos I didn't take at Opfer, I took a couple seconds ago. They're actually not even pictures, they're videos. At this internship, I didn't have a lot of control over any of the projects I was working on. I didn't really have a say in things, and I didn't really learn how to use any of the equipment they were working on. But overall, I think I had a great time at the internship, and I really learned what it is to experience working in that field, and I had a great time there. At the internship, I asked a bunch of different people what problems they might have had in the industry, what problems they had with their work they were doing every day, and I learned a lot of interesting things. I learned one thing that they had a big issue with at Opfer was that they build their own sets most of the time. And building sets is very time consuming, they don't have the people for it, so they have to hire new people, and it can sometimes take weeks, months, and just overall an egregious amount of time to build these things before they can even shoot anything for the commercial. And it's a really long, arduous process. Another issue they had at Opfer was how the entire industry worked, where they would start working on commercials for different companies before they were even confirmed to be working for them, and they'd be working on all this different stuff, and they'd get it all done, and they'd have all this work done, and eventually they'd get declined to work with that company, and all their work would just be completely useless. I came up with a lot of different solutions for my capstone on these problems. One was 3D rendering, another was maybe investing in something new like the volume that they're using at Disney. A lot of different solutions that I thought might work for my capstone project. And then I decided to ditch all those ideas and do something else. I saw a YouTube video a few months back about the state of the movie theater industry. I hope you know what those are, you know. Big buildings with big screens that they get a bunch of people to cram into to watch movies. I mean, they've been around since 1895. I hope you know what they are. This video talked about the movie theater industry and about how movie theaters might be disappearing and streaming services might be killing it. So, as someone who's been to a movie theater more times than I can count, I wanted to see what was going on. This subject doesn't really connect to my internship, you know, commercials, movies, same thing. Now that you know what my capstone is, time to get into the research. First of all, is the movie theater industry declining? Yes, it is. But for how long might surprise you. According to The Atlantic, back in 2018, the movie theater industry has been on a straight decline since the 1950s. Over 70 years. Back in the 1940s, the average American bought over 20 tickets a year. Well, that statistic today is much lower. Within 2017, movie theater attendance was the lowest it had been in 20 years. And this isn't something that just started happening now. This has been going on for decades. Back in 2005, the Christian Science Monitor wrote a story about declining movie theater attendance, and stated that even the new Star Wars movie that came out that year, Revenge of the Sith, wouldn't be able to save the drowning movie theater industry, with new products coming out like the DVD player and the iPod keeping people at home and away from the theaters. To quote Paul de Garberdiebeven, to quote Paul of Exhibitor Relations, a firm that tracks the box office, people have their DVDs, their video games, their iPods. It just takes a whole lot more than before to get people to come out to the movie theaters. Even back in 1985, the New York Times wrote an article about declining movie theater attendance, this time placing blame on the VCR, a device over a third of Americans were speculated to have in 1986. It's clear the movie theater industry hasn't caught a break in a very, very long time. You could be watching a movie at home on a VCR, on a DVD player, even online on a streaming service. There is just more and more ways to watch a movie anywhere but the movie theater. Today in 2022, there just isn't a whole lot of reason to go to the movie theater anymore. The idea that there is absolutely no reason to go to the movie theater definitely was not helped by the 2020 COVID pandemic. Even the Washington Post wrote an article that even with mask mandates and vaccines and everything, they still requested that people not go to the movie theater. That it was just an unnecessary risk that people shouldn't be taking. But the Post had a solution. In 2021, four of the biggest movie releases of that year, Cruella, In the Heights, Suicide Squad, Black Widow, all released on streaming services the same day they released in theaters. There literally was not a reason to go to the movie theater. The Washington Post came to this conclusion based on the fact that many movies slated to release in 2020 were delayed, even just a couple months into the pandemic. Just to name a couple of them. Morbius, Ghostbusters, Godzilla, James Bond, Black Widow, Top Gun, Dune, Halloween, and West Side Story, and dozens of other movies were all slated to release in 2020, but were delayed by a couple months, a couple of years, just stopped production entirely. No one had any idea when they would be released. According to PR Newswire, there was a 71% decline in the movie theater industry in 2020 due to a much larger decline since the 50s, as stated before, and because of the pandemic. This made a lot of movie theaters lose a lot of money. One of the major ones was AMC, who suffered heavily due to the pandemic. AMC, the largest movie theater chain in the United States, almost went bankrupt 4 times during the course of the pandemic, only staying afloat because they had to sell off all of their movie theaters when the pandemic was bad, and then rebuy them all again whenever the pandemic went down. By the end of 2020, AMC gained over $700 million of debt, adding to its already large $4.8 billion of debt that it had even before 2020, putting AMC in an even larger state of financial ruin. Knowing all of this about AMC and the decline in the movie theater industry and how badly the pandemic affected the corporation, how long can AMC keep going on before a total collapse? So, after all this information, it is very clear that the movie theater has been suffering a lot from the past 70 years. New products are coming out, and large global events are happening. Everything is dragging the movie theater industry down. So, what can movie theaters do to help? Well, luckily, there are a couple surveys that might help them out. The first survey is from PR Newswire back in 2007, which is a little bit dated, but I think it'd be helpful in seeing what people want in the movie theater today. Looking at the survey, there's a lot of big statistical numbers. One of them is that 83% of people are content with how the movie theater is right now, and 73% of people plan on continuing going to the movie theater. However, 60% of people in that survey said that they plan on spending less at the movie theater industry. So, what could movie theaters do to change? 62% of people in that survey said they would go to the movie theater more often if there was reserved seating, which is kind of a more prevalent thing now. 86% of people in that same survey said they would go more often if there was lower prices on tickets, while another 63% of people said they would go if there's more options for food or if they could bring food from outside into the theater. So for people 15 years ago, back in 2007, people want lower ticket prices and maybe some more food options. But that's about it. And that whole survey thing, that's got a lot of big numbers and statistics and all that, and doesn't really have a lot of personalized, more available answers. So why don't I do my own survey on Kickapoo students and see what they want from a movie theater? So I did it. I did that. I did a big old survey, and you were too late to stop me. I did a survey on a bunch of unwilling and adverse teenagers and asked them what are their thoughts on the movie theater industry. And here are their answers now. I went around and surveyed 50 different Kickapoo students and asked them the same 5 questions. What grade are you in? How many times do you go to the movie theater a month? Are you happy with the movie theater industry today? What can the movie theater do to change, to bring you in more? And the 5th question, would you even go to the movie theater industry more if they made the changes you want? Or would you just stay at home and prefer to watch DVDs or streaming service or whatever you do to watch movies instead of going to the theater? The first question was what grade they were in, but I realized later that that question doesn't really matter, and I decided to just not use any of the answers. The second question was how often you go to the movie theater a month. And after a lot of math and a lot of calculations and all that, in the end I found out that the average Kickapoo student today goes to the movie theater 0.67 times a month. If the average American in 1940 bought 20 tickets a year, the average Kickapoo student only bought 8 tickets a year. Which, with everything else we've already learned, it's not looking great for the movie theater industry. The second question was how happy you are with the movie theater industry, which the answers were surprisingly high. 74% of students surveyed said that they were happy with the industry today, and only 16% said they were indifferent. Which, if the movie theater industry is going under, at least people are happy with how it is today. The fourth question I asked was, what could a movie theater do to change that would make you go more often? And by quite a large margin, out of the responses, 33% of them included the phrase that they wanted cheaper prices on food. 22% of responses said that they wanted cheaper tickets, and right after that, in third, 7% of people said that they want more options on food, like more gourmet options, or just to be able to bring food from outside. Most of the responses even asked for students to Many of the responses even asked for movie theaters to model themselves after Alamo Drafthouse, which is a bit of a mix between a movie theater and a restaurant, if you're not familiar with it. After that, most of the responses are just one or two people asking for something. For example, showing older movies. Maybe moving the bathrooms closer to the screens. Beds? Headphones? Being less boring and stupid. And the fifth, final, and likely most important question is, if the movie theater made the changes that you want, would you still go there? Would you go there more often? Or would you just prefer to stay at home, watch DVDs, VCR, streaming service, whatever? And the results are in. 44% of people said no, they would not go to the movie theater more often, while 48% of people said yes, they would go to the movie theater more often. Which is quite interesting. There seems to be almost a 50-50 split on whether people want to go more often or people who don't. But overall, it seems like there's just a lot of people that don't want to go to the movie theater industry. They have no reason to go to the movie theaters. So that's all the research. And what have we learned from this? I mean, it seems that the biggest thing that a movie theater can do is just lower their prices. I mean, it's a lot to ask someone to go outside, get in their car, drive however long it takes to the movie theater, buy your tickets, buy your food, which can cost upwards of $20 to $30 to see one movie with 100 different people in a room. That is a lot to ask for when places like Disney Plus are asking for $8 a month to watch as many movies as you want in your home with whoever you want at any time, whatever movie. It's a lot for the movie theater industry to ask high prices for a lessened experience. And I know it seems counterintuitive to tell an industry that is going under, is in billions of dollars of debt, is struggling to stay afloat, to sell tickets for lower prices. That's not a great thing for the industry, but it may be the only way to bring people in. Another thing they can do is make more drastic changes to make themselves more appealing to the people of today. I mean, it isn't the 1940s anymore. You can't just put a big screen on a building and expect people to come in and treat it like an amazing experience, because today it isn't anymore. And to keep with this model that they have for the past 70 years is just going to keep leading them deeper and deeper into ruin. I think a great example of how drastic change can help bring people into the movie theater is the Alamo. The Alamo Drafthouse, if you're not aware, is a building in Springfield, Missouri, which is half dinner, half restaurant, and even has a bar out front. And the reason why people go there is because going to the Alamo is not just going to a movie theater to go to the movie theater. It's going to a movie theater to watch a movie and eat dinner at the same time. It's combining two experiences to make it less demanding of the people of today to go watch a movie. It even has a bar out front, like I said. Like, there's a lot that it's giving to people. Another thing the Alamo does is have movie theater parties, where they show older movies, something that a lot of people before said they wanted, and make some more interactive experiences. They have props. I mean, even this that I used earlier today is a prop from the Alamo Theater, and it makes some more interactive experiences. It gives people the ability to see these older movies that they might have seen a dozen or so times over 40-something years, and it allows them to see it in a different light, it makes it a better experience for everyone because it shows people a way to see a movie that's different from the way they have. Which for most movie theaters today, it's just the same experience, over and over and over again. These new creative ideas that the Alamo is bringing up is what's going to keep this industry alive, because clearly the old ways aren't working anymore. To summarize, the movie theater industry is dying. This isn't a new thing, this isn't something that happened recently, this has been happening for 70 years. And movie theaters' refusal to change their old ways that they've been doing since the 1940s is leading them into ruin, and eventually an entire collapse of the industry. First, the VCR used to rival the movie theater, then it was the DVD player, then it was the iPod, and now it's streaming services. Now they're taking on movie theater. Companies are making more and more convenient and easy ways to make consumers see movies without the theater. They're slowly cutting out the middleman that they don't need to make more money. The movie theater industry needs to change now. That was made clear by AMC almost going bankrupt 4 times during 2020. They need to make themselves more appealing to the customers of today, or else they are going to die. No longer can the movie theater just be a place to watch movies. It has to be better than the consumer's own home to watch a movie. And with this, the industry needs radical change. There are many different ways that the movie theater industry can make this change. They can lower prices on tickets and food, or they can make that price worth coming to the theater. They can make it more engaging for the audience, like movie parties, which is something that the Alamo does. They can have dinner at the movie theater. They need to do something to make them stand out among the rest. But one thing among all is very, very clear. The movie theater industry needs to change, or it will become another relic of the past. Thank you.